Well, I figured I'd use my weeb card early and talk about a game that came out earlier in the year that deserves way more attention in my eyes. Because seeing AAA video games always hit the top charts saddens me. And the best way to make myself happy in general is to talk about games I like. And also see said AAA games fail like NBA 2020 did. Anyway, Touhou Lunar Nights is a 2D Metroidvania released early this year after it had a short time in Steam Early Access. It was created by Team Ladybug and Backer Game Magazine, at least I hope that's correct because that's what it says on the Steam page, and it did receive extreme praise when it came out and after it came out with some expansion content, mainly a new stage and a boss rush mode. Now before we get in, I'll just say this. You don't need to know anything about Touhou to get into this and many other fan games. A lot of the games they make, they generally expect people not to know, just to play it safe, so you'll be fine. Anyway, let's get into the gameplay because it's likely already on your screen right now, and I'm worried I'll start going off topic about various Touhou things if we don't keep going, so... Anyway, gameplay! Lunar Nights is a short Metroidvania that makes use of solid mechanics and designs to push itself ahead of its competition. Whether that's done with varying knife attacks or strong movement mechanics, neither of these would work as well if it weren't for the ability to stop time that we get very shortly after we start the game. Freezing time not only stops most enemies and objects in the environments, but also affects our abilities in varying ways. A knife from a double jump, for example, can be used as a makeshift platform, and knives that we throw can easily make makeshift stairs, which allows us to have creativity in how we handle the situation. That doesn't mean we don't have a varying arsenal at our disposal, however. We can make use of knives in various ways as we find spell cards that allow us to access special abilities. We can make use of electrified knives that explode, for example, have auto-aiming projectiles that follow us, which is handy against certain enemies. And along the line, we do get special abilities that easily outshine the others, but they have a very high cost. And some of them are clearly made for more passing by, instead of sticking around and fighting, like the Lost Holy Moon Sword, which is really useful against squishy enemies, but it uses up mana way too much at tanky enemies, in my opinion. But there is more that's good and enjoyable, and along with some other annoyances out there, but let's focus on the good first. First off, the feel of action is solid and enjoyable. The control given to you is great and lets you handle enemies of varying types with little difficulty. And thanks to the time stop mechanics, there's a great degree of strategy and expanding playstyles that you can make use of. And honestly, without it, I feel like the combat alone would be way too weak to support the game. Alongside that, upgrades like the dash knife and the screw knife not only open new paths to the player, but also do open new ways to fight. The dash knife in particular makes great use of your sliding abilities in order to hit enemies that may be able to hit you when you're standing, but sometimes they have issues when you're sliding. And stuff like the screw knife does add piercing to your attacks, which does allow you to handle groups easier. One mechanic I do need to give praise for, however, is the grazing mechanic, which is a staple of the Touhou series. When you're near an enemy, but you're not getting hit by them, you're technically grazing them in most games, and in this one, the effect is the same. And when you're grazing them, you get bonuses such as health recovery, or if your health is full, your mana will be restored at a faster rate. When time is frozen, these effects are reduced because balancing reasons, but it's still well done, and it makes a very good risk-reward system. It isn't, however, all good. There are some annoyances I feel are there. However, I will say, you can ignore these if you want because it's me being a little bit nitpicky. One problem I do have is something that happened to me a couple times when I was playing this game for recording, and that is when defeating a boss, there's no autosave, which I do understand is being a bit silly in my eyes. Not towards the game, but towards myself. There's usually a save point right before a boss, and I could have easily turned around and gone and saved before I continued. I understand I was being an idiot in those situations, but I still feel it could have been nice to have an option that allows an autosave to happen when you defeated a boss. because having to go through those fights again after I already beat them is a little bit annoying. Thankfully, however, I learnt my lesson, and then forgot about it, and then had to learn it again. I was stupid. Another issue I do have, while small, is that the way the UI is scaled and everything, I noticed sometimes when I was in higher up areas and my character was, nearing the top of the UI, some UI elements would get stuck behind the main HUD, which meant I couldn't see them. It's a little thing, but I do feel like it could be handled better. But honestly, that's about all I see that's not that great. So anyway, that's not the only thing I want to talk about. What about the graphics and the presentation of the game? That's just as important as anything else if you think about it. Now when I say graphics and presentation, I mean how they look and how they manage to create an environment and atmosphere. It's pretty simple to say, but it's best to explain. First off, I'm going to say graphically, this is really well done. Characters all look as they should, and I've never had to stop and second guess what I'm looking at. Except those fairies that somehow got a Gatling gun inside. Seriously, how the F did they... Oh god!
You got 2 seconds to explain what you're doing on my property.
Environments themselves are all very well done and are very well detailed. They all stand out from each other, and there's many things you'll notice as you play. And honestly, there isn't that much to say about the good, because in the end it's all pretty well done. But there is one thing I want to say that I didn't find that good when I was going through things, and I feel like the UI is what I feel needs a little bit of work. I wish it just had a little bit of scalability, because I've had moments where stuff gets around and gets blocked up. It's just a visual thing. We've got gameplay, we've got graphics, what about the audio? Of course we're going to take a look at it. How else would you hear what I've been saying? Anyway, dumb jokes aside, the audio in Lunar Nights is actually quite important, as we'll get into. Sound effects wise, everything is solid. Hits are defined, and it's clear to tell when you've met your mark on an enemy, and even things like the time-related mechanics make use of solid and honestly more beefy sound design than I would expect from a game like this. Accompanying this is the music, and it's honestly a solid soundtrack. While I can imagine some people say remixing themes from already existing games is lazy, it's honestly a common thing in Touhou to do because the themes themselves are iconic and make as much character as the characters themselves. And have you seen how big the music side of Touhou is? Seriously, there's a reason people keep remixing the same songs. They're that good, apparently. I shouldn't go on about it because I'll just start going off on a tangent and we don't want to be here forever. There's one thing I have against the audio, and it's just a little bug thing I noticed as I was playing. I noticed sometimes with the mana and the time gauges, because when they fill up, they make a sound to indicate they're filled. Sometimes I noticed they were looping in on themselves, which is a bit awkward. It wasn't a big problem, but it was just a tiny one. In the end, after all was said and done, would I recommend... Okay, I can't even continue that sentence without slowly killing myself. The answer to it is obvious. I really like this game, and I want more people to play it. The game isn't expensive, it's like £14, and what I feel is a solid and replayable Metroidvania. It's not going to hurt your wallet at all. And if you're short on money, you can always wait for a sale, since Steam tends to have one every few months. Also, if you're a stickler for having OSTs in your games to listen to when you're done, it's in the files. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, there's a whole like, comment, subscribe bollocks as usual. I'd heavily encourage, but I feel that's completely up to the viewer to make on their own. And there is more to come. I just have to decide. But I think it's not going to be a weeb related kind of thing, since I'm pretty sure that's going to need recharging before I can use that card again.